Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, are idle hands truly the devil's workshop? Subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we are reviewing HBO's Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 7, Driftmark. Wow. I mean, just initial impressions, I was freaking out when I was watching Prince Aemond on Vhagar flying for the very first time, and just him approaching him was so exciting. I'm a really big fan of this old 80s fantasy series of novels called Dragonlance Chronicles. And to see a dragon rider sort of go to battle and stuff, like over in, skies and like flying citadel buildings and stuff, like all around, just seeing this massive war is what I've always wanted since I was a kid. And this gets us one step closer. We get these really wonderful scenes of all the different dragons flying around Driftmark and stuff during the funeral, and it's just exciting. There's something about, some people are really into dinosaurs. I'm really into dragons. I think it's really cool. All right. So anyway, this episode was directed by Miguel Sapochnik. It was written by Kevin Lau, and it originally aired yesterday, October 2nd. So we're really introduced to everyone in this opening scene of Lady Lena's funeral on Driftmark. And they have this really wonderful ritual of sending bodies to the sea in these sort of like stone sarcophagus, which is kind of cool. You can imagine, in 1,000, 2,000 years from now, people are going to be like digging up these ancient sarcophagus, trying to figure out what this culture was like back then. Like I could just totally see it in the same way that, a lot of these cultures are like the Greyjoys, for example. Their throne was actually something that they inherited once they took over the Isle. So that it was just like this ancient peoples that even predated the Children of the Forest in Westeros, which is kind of an exciting idea about these ancient intelligences that used to live in this realm before anyone, even the modern time prehistory, existed. Something kind of cool anyway. I was like freaking out about that when I was watching this with my wife yesterday. Probably drove her nuts. Anyway, so you can tell the tension all about this funeral as it's going on. And there's even a point where, the sort of the priest type character is giving his eulogy, and it's more like this sort of religious, he's reciting some sort of religious doctrine or something like that. And Daemon snickers, which is just a Daemon thing to do. That's what he does. It's his wife's funeral. They're like saying, reciting ancient Valerian text or something, and he's giggling like a little kid because that's just who he is. He's just he's Daemon. He's his own person. It's really weird. So anyway, we see Rhaenyra and Daemon sort of reconnecting during this time. And certainly throughout the entirety of the episode, they really connect at the very end, but we'll get there in a second. And it's just interesting seeing how, certain kids are just like, Aegon is just drinking way too much. And there's this moment where he's sort of talking smack, watching his sister, who is clearly into magic, sort of doing her little playing with a spider bit as she's sort of reciting. It sort of reminded me of the Macbeth, the witch in Macbeth, where it was like multiple people at some times, but really then it's only one. It's that whole the idea of the old crone who lives in the forest. That's kind of Aegon's sister. And anyway, they're betrothed, and he's talking to his brother Aemond, and he's like, I don't even want to marry her. This is gonna suck. And he's like, if it was my job, I would do my family duties. So we can already tell that Aegon is less interested, and we had a little bit of backstory before when he's like, well, I just won't contest for the throne then if my cousins are going to have it. And his mom's like, no, you have to. This is your right. You are the firstborn son. So he is less interested in ruling than even his own younger brother, who he picked on ad nauseum because he doesn't have a dragon yet. But he gets one. Oh boy, does he get one. So we get to see different people being sent to bed and going to bed because they're young or old or drunk or, causing problems. And it's really interesting family dynamic because, again, the Valerians and the Targaryens are now connected through marriage, through loss, and through dragons. And it's interesting to see that dynamic develop. And we can just see the Civil War starting. Like we've already had the sort of the bells tolling, foretelling it's coming. But even now, especially throughout the course of the rest of this episode, we see it really, really hard. So after the funeral, Prince Aemond is like looking around, just sort of like kicking the tires, just not wanting to go to bed, looking at the scenery, and he sees this huge shadow fly through the clouds, which is Vhagar. And Vhagar, of course, is the oldest dragon on the planet at this point that anyone's aware of, anyway, and the late Lady Laena's dragon. And Prince Aemond is Alicent's son, not Laena's son. And so it's kind of a bold move on his part to go up to the most ancient of dragons and try to mount the damn thing. And the whole time I'm just on the edge of my seat, like, is he going to be burned to death? Is it going to kill him if he gets burned to death? Because Daenerys, she could have fire thrown in her face and walk through it, and it wasn't a big deal. Like, I don't really understand the whole Targaryen fireproof nature. Like, it doesn't work for all of the Targaryens, only some of them, and so it doesn't really make any sense at all. If anyone watching this at any future date understands it, please let me know, because I'd love to understand it. But, I'm like, is he going to be burned? Is it going to hurt him if he gets burned? Like, how is he, there's no way that this dragon, the most ancient of dragons, is going to let this little punk ass ride him. And boy, was I wrong, because this ancient dragon allowed him. He was like, calm down, Valerian. You need to simmer down, or Vhagar, you need to simmer down. I'm going to get on you. I'm going to ride you. You and I, we're going to have a bond. You and me, no matter what. I will stay with you till the end, and if you, have my back. And the dragon was like, all right, get on. I was sleeping. Now you interrupted my sleep, but I guess we can go for a ride. And, you've never even been on a ride. And we get the first maiden voyage ride of a dragon by Prince Aemond, which was so cool. There's this wonderful moment where he's like hanging on for dear life as Vhagar's going in the almost straight vertical flight. And just seeing his excitement and seeing the dragon start to really, really have fun. And Vhagar just looks awesome as a dragon. And just seeing him, moving around the environment and the atmosphere and the water. And it was just incredibly awesome. And it just got my heart pounding. And I was so excited on the edge of my seat, just going, oh, I know tragedy is very quickly coming. But let's just savor these little brief moments that we get, because they are so wonderful. Loved the entire sequence. Up until he lands Vhagar and he's coming back inside Driftmark. And he's sort of stopped at the tunnels by Laena's daughters. And they're like, motherfucker, that was my dragon. How dare you steal my dragon? And he was like, bitch, please, you should have got your ass out there and claimed the dragon first. And he's not wrong. She really should have. I understand she's grieving, but dragons are a commodity here. If you don't have one, you need to get one, because shit is coming. And they're the only thing that's going to protect your ass. And not even in most cases. But what we end up seeing is like a scene from Kids. These kids just beating the shit out of each other. Which is crazy, because they're little kids. Like, really hitting each other. Like, someone taught these kids how to throw a punch. Because kids don't normally know how to throw, they do like this thing, or like slap fight, or like type thing. This girl straight up cold-cocked Prince Aemond, and he got right back up like Rocky Balboa and gave it right back to her, dropping her like a sack of potatoes, which was a huge shock. Not only I've always lived a life and been taught that you do not hit women unless they hit you like a man. And that's what he did. He's like, I'm not going to hit a woman. Then she hits him like a man. He's like, all right, here it comes. I hope you like it. And it was just amazing. I was just like stunned that I was even watching this. And then Rhaenyra's sons get involved, and one of them literally like pulls out a switchblade. I was expecting like a West Side Story dance knife fight, you know, like when you're a jet. But no, it was like he just escalated the situation way quickly, way too fast and too far. Like, what are you gonna do? Stab this guy in the face? Yeah, that's what he did. So they're wrestling around. Aemon gets a rock and he's like going to crush someone's skull. But these are cousins, you know? Like, they don't want to kill each other. They don't even want to really hate each other. It's their parents that are making them hate each other. And it's this particular situation of Prince Aemon punching the girl in the face and dropping her that sort of spurred these two brothers into action, too. And, you know, to be 100% honest, I think it ended as good as it possibly could have, with Prince Aemon getting a knife sliced up his face and losing an eye. It went so deep, which is pretty terrifying. But then we get cut into this scene where it's like, I don't know if it was like a dining hall or just an open hall, but it had literally everyone up in the middle of the night, where the maester is sewing up the kid's face, and Alicent is like, hey, is he gonna be okay? Is he gonna heal? He's like, well, he's gonna have a scar, and he lost his eye. And she loses her mind immediately, demanding that there's an eye for an eye. There has to be retribution. And King Viserys is like, look, he stole a dragon, he lost an eye, they got in a fight, they both got beat up. Kids will be kids. He's like, I'm tired. I want to go back to bed. I'm old. And, you know, just trying to like placate everyone. No one wants to be placated. And Alicent is demanding retribution. And so they're asking what it was all about. And ultimately Rhaenyra's sons say, well, they called us a bastard. You know, he called us a bastard. He said we weren't legitimate Targaryens, and that's why we freaked out and we were attacking him. And then the king's demanding, where did you get this information from? Who told you this? Because though it is true that they are bastards, he doesn't want to see his grandkids that way. And he certainly doesn't want to mess up the kingdom that he has literally already sworn to his daughter Rhaenyra. So he's in the worst situation ever. He's so old and he's so diseased, and he can't get his family to just love each other like no family ever has that I've ever known. There's always some sort of contention, just not this much contention in a family unit. And, you know, he's trying to make everyone get along, and no one is going to get along. So Alicent tries to push the boundary and says, Corlys, her own Kingsguard guy, I want you to go get that kid's eye for me. She sends the Kingsguard to go take the prince's eye out as retribution. And he's like, I'm here to help you, not really do that. That's not really my job description, sweetheart. Sorry about that. And she gets so pissed off, she takes his dagger and charges the boy. Like she is going to cut the boy's eye out herself. And so, of course, Rhaenyra steps up, Mama Bear. She's not going to let her cub get hurt. And she's like, now everyone sees you for the monster you are, Alicent. This is bullshit. You're threatening a child. What have you come to? How far have you fallen? And King Viserys is like, everyone go to bed. I'm tired. We need to go to bed. Everyone go to bed. He's like, look, the next motherfucker that says anything about them being bastards is going to lose their tongue. This is treason, and we are no longer going to stand for it. Deal with it. But there's just this wonderful moment that was shared between the king and Aemon. And he was like, who told you? And Aemon's like, just look at them. Everyone knows that they're bastards. No one has to tell anyone anything. Just look at them. They're so clearly, obviously bastards. And it's at this point that Princess Rhaenyra realizes we're going to have a civil war as soon as my daddy dies. Like that, there's no way around it at this point. Alicent Hightower is insistent that her firstborn son, Aegon, is going to be the new king, even though her husband, the king, has proclaimed Rhaenyra to be the queen. Rhaenyra, I'm sorry. And there's just no getting around it. And so she is sort of looking like, I need someone to have my back. And my husband, Lucerys, he's not even around. Not Lucerys, Laenor, sorry. Laenor's never even around. He's not in any of these situations to protect her or her kids or his supposed kids. And, we get this wonderful scene where he's coming in. He's like, look, I've been absent. I've been derelict. I sent, my boy lover down to the Stepstones to fight where he wanted to fight in the first place. I'm here devoted to you. And there's a point where it's off screen, but the conversation happens where she's like, no, you should probably leave. And then after Rhaenyra has this conversation with Daemon, she's like, we need allies. We need to be together. You wanted to marry me. Why don't you marry me? And he's like, I can't marry you. You're already married. And then they make this scheme up. And so Daemon goes over to the lover of Laenor and says, look, you need to take this guy to Essos, and you two can live comfortably for the rest of your lives in anonymity. Just make it look like he died. Make it look like you killed him. And then just go off in anonymity and live happy lives together. And that's exactly what they do. And there's this terrifying moment where Lord Corlys Velaryon comes in and he sees a corpse, which he believes is his son, leaning into the fireplace, all completely burned, from the head to the, the bust, the shoulders and up. And he's like, how is this possible? How could my son, how could he have been murdered in my own family hall when I have guards everywhere? And he's like freaking out. You lose a son, you're gonna have a problem. And then there's this moment between Rhaenys, his wife, and him saying, well, who are we going to have sort of inherit Driftmark? Because these boys are not Velaryons. They're bastards that Rhaenyra has. And though they may have your name, they are not your blood heirs. And the other option for inheriting Driftmark are Daemon and Laena's daughters, but they have Targaryen names, even though they are actually Valyrian blood. And so Rhaenys wants the Valyrian blood, the daughters, to inherit Driftmark. And Corlys Velaryon is like, no, it's the name that matters, not the bloodline. It is the name. And I want my name to have control of Driftmark for generations. That is my legacy, and I will see it done. And he storms out. And it's just this interesting statement about the importance of legacy and the family name, and having how important that is to this entire Westeros conflagration of houses and the Game of Thrones. It's less important who they come from. It's more important who they're named after. And we understand that is now a solid truth, at least for the Velaryons. Princess Rhaenyra and Prince Daemon get to fucking. There's no way to banding about in different terms. They get down, and it's pretty ooky. I mean, they're cousin. It's nephew and it's niece and uncle is what it is, and so they're a little too close in the gene pool. But it's a Targaryen thing, and so I guess it's not weird. But watching it is weird. And we're forced to watch it for a while, and it's weird. But what are you going to do? And then they get married in this really interesting fashion at the very end, once her husband is presumably dead and run off to Essos with his boyfriend. It's a really cool where they cut their lower lip and then they mark their forehead. It's this interesting ceremony that I don't recall ever having seen before. And I don't know, it's just something that it's an interesting rite that I could kind of see wanting to emulate in some fashion. On like a renewal of vows or something with my wife, but I don't think she would be down with it. But it's still kind of a cool little ritual that they go through. What else? What else happened? This was such an exciting episode. I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, ultimately, Laenor follows Sir Carl off of Driftmark to Essos. Rhaenyra and Daemon are now married uniting their two families with the daughters and the sons. And so it doesn't really matter at this point because the sons are no longer Valerian, they're Targaryen. I don't think he's going to force them to have the Valerian name now that their dad's supposedly dead and their new dad is a Targaryen. And so that sort of throws a wrench into Corlys Valerian's hopes for Driftmark moving forward. But what's going to happen to so Lena's dragon Vhagar is now with Prince Aemon. Is that just cool with everyone? There's like no contesting it. I understand once the dragon bonds, there's not a lot you can do, especially with Vhagar. Like she's the most powerful dragon right now. But like, what about Laenor's dragon? He had one. He just abandoned it? Is it going to like somehow follow him to Essos? You know, again, dragons are a rare commodity. You have to have them for protection. I can totally see Daemon's daughters trying to claim Laenor's dragon. And, well, they should. I can't remember his name, and so you'll have to forgive me for not remembering that. But, you know, they definitely should try to claim that so that at least they have a dragon to their name. Because ultimately what we're looking at with this first season is the first generation that starts the Civil War. This second season, it's not going to be with Alicent and Rhaenyra. It's going to be with their kids. And it's going to get dirty, and it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get there quick. So everything that we're seeing here that we think is so horrible is only a mild prelude of the depravity and disgust and just horror to come. And it gets so bad. So, you know, we're going to see Alicent and we're going to see Rhaenyra sort of, you know, for the rest of their lives throughout the course of this until someone's not alive anymore. But it's really going to, the Civil War is going to take place primarily between the kids, not the parents. And that's, I think, probably the most frustrating aspect of all of this is that, you know, adults made their bed. They either lived a life that is satisfying and joy-filled or disgusting and, you know, they end up hating and causing discord. Kids should not suffer their parents' mistakes. Let them make their own mistakes. Let them suffer from their own actions, not their parents' actions. And it's really, really disgusting to me to see these parents pushing their hatred onto their kids and forcing their kids into what will ultimately be the bloodiest civil war that Westeros has ever seen. All because they wanted to be the one that's right. They want to be the one in power because I was told I should be here, you know, for some reason. And it's just, it's devastating, you know, as a parent to even consider doing that, but then to see it on screen as if it's just like the thing that everyone does. No, no one does. You're a disgusting monster. All of you. And that's, I think, the most interesting thing about all this is that there is no good guy. Everyone's a bad guy. And so no matter whose team you're on, and if you're watching this, you have a team, no matter whose team you're on, you have to base that decision around, well, everyone's doing horrible shit. What horrible shit am I okay with? So it puts the onus on you, the viewer, not the atrocities on the characters. We're the ones accepting those atrocities by siding with one of them. And that's an uncomfortable reality to face that you're watching this. You know, it's not like an anti-hero, like a Tony Soprano that you can get behind. Yeah, they do bad things, but, you know, they're sort of, you know, looking after their family in some way. No, this is just straight up horrific actions all around. And you can see that, you know, that new Littlefinger character that helped Alicent. He was like, look, if you want an eye taken away, I'll get that eye for you, just like I burned up my father and brother for you. He is really got her by the short hairs. And there's nothing that she can really do. It almost seems like she accepts it and embraces him now at the end of this. Because she's like, okay, you know, there's going to come a time when I call on you. And it's coming. So be ready, but don't take his eye out. I don't want to do that right now. Man, it's going to get gross. So I can't wait. I, the thing is, I'm so appalled by some of this behavior, but I love the drama of it. This is hands down the best, I say it every week, the best TV show on any platform, streaming anywhere, this year and arguably for the last couple years. This is amazing stuff, and it's so exciting to be able to see it unfold and to see things turn out in interesting and unexpected ways. Because the novel that it's based off of comes from three different characters' perspectives, I believe, and so none of it is hand to Bible truth or anything like that. It's all just their perspectives, and we know just from watching any of these shows that any of these Game of Thrones shows that perspective means everything. I mean, you can be see yourself as a hero and do horrible things, but as long as you perceive yourself as doing it in the name of whatever is right, family, country, name it, then you can sleep at night, which is weird. So we just get to see it unfold continually. So anyway, my favorite aspect of this entire episode was definitely the dragon flight. That was so cool. I was just like a little boy again watching it. It was really thrilling. And my least favorite aspect of this was when Alicent straight up contradicted her husband, the king, and tried to have the kid's eye taken out by, dang it, why can't I remember his name ever? Well, anyway, by the her king's guard, and he refused. Like I didn't like that she would go to that level. She was the one that always said, Alicent was always saying, we need to be honorable. But as soon as it was her son, fuck honor, get his eye. You really see their true colors when tragedy strikes close to home. Oh, it's so exciting. All right, so I'm going to give this thing, no surprise, 5 evil eyes out of 5 evil eyes. Amazing show, House of the Dragon. Do yourselves a favor and check it out if you haven't already. And if you have checked out the episode, let me know what you thought of it. What was your favorite part of the episode? Is Alicent turning into too big of a bad guy? Part of what I loved about her is that she wasn't an overtly bad guy. Now she is. So what did you think of that change of events, that turn? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, remember that evil spelled backwards is live. So get your asses out there and do a little evil.